Everybody, welcome to the Papillion-La Vista Community Schools Board of Education meeting for December 11th, 2023. Would everyone please rise for the presentation of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. You may be seated. I do have to mention, while they're leaving, the wonderful color guard we had, 2 Monarchs and 2 Titans, Benjamin Bowen and Aiden Newbern from Monarchs, and Elijah Seaby, and they were commanded by Benjamin Hubert, and the last 2 were both Titans. So I thought that was pretty amazing. So thank you very much. All right, with that, we'll go to item B. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Thank you very much. All right, we had to move it, obviously, but the open meetings law is still there. Please take note of that as the entrance to the room, please. Appreciate that. We'll move on to item 2, communications. First up, recognition. Dr. Rickley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey, members of the board. Appreciate you changing the venue for us this evening. We'll talk more about that during my superintendent comments, but appreciate the board being so flexible. Also want to thank our community members who came out tonight. We know it's an incredibly busy time of year. This change of venue, hopefully it didn't create too many challenges for our community, but we certainly appreciate you being here. This first item under Roman numeral 2, communications recognition. The school board prefers doing at least one of these a month, sometimes more frequently, depending on how busy our staff and students are. But the purpose of the recognition is to draw attention to individuals, students or staff, that have done something to distinguish themselves in some sort of exemplary manner. And we certainly have one of those individuals this evening. It is a staff member. And by the way, this staff member is no stranger to these board meetings because he is much decorated and has brought much distinction to his program, his school, and certainly his program. Tonight we are recognizing the Distinguished Advisor of the Year. The Nebraska High School Press Association, NHSPA, has named our own Joe Rahacek, the voice of the Monarchs, from Papillion-La Vista High School, the NHSPA Distinguished Advisor of the Year. This award is given to one high school journalism advisor who's shown excellence in their role. Joe has overseen several award-winning teams of students who've been recognized by this organization for publications, including the PLCS, the Scepter, and the Yearbook, including the 2022-23 publications of both. These awards are generally considered the top overall award that a high school publication in the state of Nebraska can win. Joe, you have brought great honor to your school and to this district, and it is with great pleasure that we honor you. Please come down and be recognized by your Board of Education. Congratulations again, Joe. Yeah, you run an outstanding program. The district's been on quite a run, Mr. Bailey. We've had the top special education director. We've had the top PE teacher. Obviously, Joe's award, yeah, that too. Anyway, with that, I would conclude the superintendent's recognition for the evening.
Thank you very much. Appreciate Joe having to come all the way across over here to join us at the Titans. But that's fantastic. All right, next up will be make them come across town as well. Our Papillion La Vista High School Student Council, Dayanara and Nora. Did I get those right? Are they here? Yep. Please come on up.
Join us, ladies.
Welcome. Probably feel like you're in enemy territory, but we're all friendly here, we promise.
Thank you for having us. As we close out the fall season and move to the winter sports season, several athletes have earned all-state recognition for softball.
Do me a favor, can you pull, these microphones are new, we're trying them, can you pull it maybe closer to you so then, because I think it's a little bit hard to hear you.
Of course.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So for softball, Super State, Chloe Hamblin and Morgan Bird have qualified. Chloe is co-captain of this team. All-State Presley Ivner and Amanda Gibilisco have also qualified. For football, Peyton Presido got All-State. He also set the school record for yards rushing. And for volleyball, we have all-class, all-state, Mia Taverdi and Faith Frame. For state, Reagan Hickey, Morgan Glazier's second team, LJS All-State. Reagan Hickey and Faith Frame have been selected to the All-State game this summer. For cross country, we keep moving on. Cross country, Grace Sups and Alexis Chadek are both Super State. Greater Omaha Sports Committee winners are two Monarchs. They were also awarded this award, Morgan Bird and Reagan Hickey. They will attend a banquet downtown with the Omaha Sports Committee for their abilities, academic success, and most important, character.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. Okay, as mentioned, we have started winter sports. We are glad to fill up our gyms and practice areas with over 200 athletes. On to Unified. In Unified Sports, we just finished our bowling season, finishing 20 pins short of a state trip. And in our Unified Musical, our Fine Arts Department put together our first Unified musical, Finding Nemo. This was a huge hit, highlighting the talents of our kids.
For fine arts, 9 students were selected for All-State. Marching band earned a superior rating at the state contest. Drama recently had a canned food drive that a lot of clubs such as Student Council and NHS helped with. Show choir had an event last night at the high school with Scott that really went well. And for Student Council went to the state convention in Grand Island on the 27th of, I believe it was last month, with many other high schools and learned a lot that the club can use in the coming year. Student Council also partnered with NHS to rake leaves at Terra Heights Elementary and the surrounding neighborhood on November 5th. Student Council had a holiday music bingo party last Tuesday, which was really nice. And lastly, we'll go on to student life.
All right. In terms of the general student life, there is an upcoming NCA Leadership Summit. 4 selected freshmen went to Lincoln North Star to attend this annual summit. And students meet with peers across the state and they talk about how to become a leader within their schools. HOSA members will be heading to the NECC Northeast Community College Health Science Experience in Norfolk, Nebraska on January 19th. The sophomore class board recently held a bubble drive for soap, shampoo, and other cleaning items. The junior class board has started planning the Color of Hope basketball game for January. The esports club held the first ever 2v2 Mario Kart tournament last Friday, went really well. The Spanish club is having a coloring and dessert party tomorrow to celebrate the end of the semester. Zoo Academy has been hosting interviews for next year's members, and DECA is hosting a volleyball tournament on December 14th. And as of this week, we're going to have finals on Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. So Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, huh? So Ready to get those out of the way and get on for Christmas break?
Can't wait.
I bet. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all coming all the way out here tonight.
Great report, ladies. Thank you for being here.
All right, next up under communications, item C is our public comment for items not on the agenda. Please remember as I call your name, you approach the table, you saw you're going to have to get the microphone kind of pretty close there to make sure we can hear you. Please state your name and your address. If you don't want to state your address, please at least state the city that you are from. Once you do that and you start talking, then Ms. Branco will start the timer. The first beep will be 2 minutes and 15 seconds, and the second one will be 3 minutes, and you have 3 minutes to speak. And with that, I will go ahead and start here. First up is Mr. Kevin Padilla.
Hello, can you hear? Good. Okay, good evening, Papillion Vista School Board. My name is Kevin Padilla, and I reside in Papillion. Can we talk? I would like to focus the school board and parents' attention onto scholastic books. Most parents with elementary kids in public schools are likely familiar with scholastic books. This used to be a great way of letting children order books. However, scholastic books has changed and has now joined the woke movement. This book corporation is now pushing children toward woke literature that features themes concerning sexuality, critical race theory, LGBTQIA+, general anti-Americanism, and other ideals. How can these book themes be considered children's books? Just asking. Scholastic is connected to nearly every public grade school in the country and is considered a billion-dollar children's book juggernaut owned by woke companies such as BlackRock and Vanguard. Are parents of grade school children aware of the Scholastic book woke agenda and BlackRock and Vanguard? Just asking. Do your research. Back in February 2022, a conservative children's book publisher, Heroes of Liberty, launched a campaign to warn parents about potential indoctrination of their children that could be going on without their knowledge. Heroes of Liberty editor and board member Bethany Mandel put the threat in dire terms in a video. Our children's souls are in danger, and the biggest problem is on our children's bookshelves. Have parents heard of Heroes of Liberty? Just asking, do your research. A second alternative book fair has just appeared on the horizon, called Sky Free Book Fair, and is being championed by Kirk Cameron, a former actor and children's book author. After a year promoting his children's books, published by a conservative Christian publisher, Brave Books, Kirk Cameron is taking his efforts to the next level. He wants to start a first-of-its-kind book fair to counter the large monopoly of scholastic book fairs. He wants to find out who is filling libraries and schools with sexually explicit and gender-confusing material. Bottom line, scholastic books caved to the left-wing liberal machine and announced that every school would be forced to accept the books aimed at grooming small children for sexual contact with adults. Parents should be free to choose the books and values by which they want to raise their children. Parents should consider a boycott against scholastic books. My information was gathered from the Daily Wire, Washington Examiner, Western Journal, and Independent Journal Review. Thank you for your time.
All right, next up this evening is Corey Jones.
Well, I'm not much of a speaker. Be honest with you, never done this before. My name's Corey Jones, reside in 910 Michael Drive in Papillion. Been a resident basically here my whole life. My oldest son went to Hickory Hill. He went to the middle school and then went to the Papillion La Vista High School. He's now a collegiate baseball player for Northeast. Baseball don't pan out. He's taking criminal justice and wanting to be a peace officer, and I applaud him. My youngest son, 10 years old, goes to Hickory Hill Elementary School. Everything that I'm going to talk about here is hypotheticals. We can't talk about specifics. I get that. But I want to raise some eyebrows here, make aware of situations that I'm sure everyone can see on the daily news almost every night. And mine is school safety and communication. So real quick, we'll try and break the ice here. Anybody, raise your hand if you know who Dr. Emmett Brown is.
We
Anybody?
don't answer questions, sir.
Oh,
Just go
okay,
ahead and
sorry.
speak to us.
All right, appreciate it.
Yep, no worries.
Dr. Emmett Brown was a scientist in the 50s, crazy scientist and inventor, right? So, but nothing ever worked, and no one ever followed his research. So one day, he's standing up on a toilet, slips and falls, hits his head, wakes up, and sees a vision. He has a vision of something great. It's called the flux capacitor. Anybody getting where I'm going yet with the old time machine? Unfortunately, that is fiction. It's not a reality. We don't have a time machine to right wrongs. Basically when noted a lot here, when that him and his partner would go back in time and fix problems to correct current times. Basically, what I'm trying to get to is when is enough when it comes to child safety and communication to parents. When there's maybe mental illness in classrooms. Having communication and keeping trust with the parents of the school, I think is a must. You have to keep trust. I want my kids to go to school and come home safe. We want the kids to be happy and remember how their schools were and have great memories of their school. And I totally lost track of everything I noted here. Basically, like I said, we can't go back in time. Once a critical point is or an event is done, we can't turn back the clock. And kicking the can down the road is unacceptable, completely unacceptable. I've seen too many times on newscasts, someone says, I wish I would have done more. I wish I would have spoke up. I wish I would have said something. By that time, it's too late. So when there is threats being made in schools, when things escalate and parents aren't notified of it, that's where I draw the line. I'm here to speak for every kid in my kids' elementary school and schools across the nation about we need to communicate with parents.
Okay. Yep, thank you, sir. Your time, your 3 minutes is up.
Oh, well, that was quick.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, last up tonight is Gavin, is it Nobby? Or not? Am I saying that correct? No, Kenobi? Okay, Gavin Kenobi, sorry about that.
My name is Gavin Kenobi, and I live in Papillion.
Yeah, you're going to have to pull that microphone closer to you. There you go.
I'm here tonight to read to our community from a book we just finished in class. The book is Eleanor and Park. This book has been read in class for several years despite vulgar language and very obvious sex scenes. Some have argued that it is age appropriate, and if this is how you feel, I hope you don't plan on punishing 17 and 18-year-old kids anymore for dropping F-bombs or repeatedly, or use of profane terms like, you must be a slut, you smell like cum, which comes out of the book we just read. While it was being played in class, even the teacher was uncomfortable. I'm not any more prepared for life because we read this book. There are so many better options. And I'd like to read part of the book. So, this is on page 275. All right. She felt so good underneath, even better than he had expected. And he'd expected her to feel like heaven, plus Nirvana, plus the scene in Willy Wonka where Charlie starts to fly. Park was breathing so hard he couldn't get any air. It seemed impossible that this could feel as good to Eleanor as it did to him. But she was making these faces. She looked like a girl in a Prince video. If Eleanor was feeling anything like what he was feeling, how were they ever supposed to stop? He pulled her shirt up over her head. "Bruce Lee," she whispered. "What?" That didn't seem right to Park. Park's hands froze. "Super hot Asian guy, Bruce Lee." "Oh," he laughed. He couldn't help it. "Okay, I'll give you Bruce Lee." She arched her back and he closed his eyes. He'd never get enough of her. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, item D under communication is the superintendent's report. Dr. Ickley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey, members of the board, and again, for those of you that joined us this evening, thank you for joining us at this location. Before we talk a little bit about why we chose to move the venue, there's a number of people that we would like to thank. First and foremost, Mr. Jeff Spilker, who not only is graciously hosting us this evening, I think he left us a little bit of Titan swag for our board members. So Jeff, thank you. Getting your building ready is no small matter. Super grateful for all that you've done to host tonight's activities. Also, Communications Director Annette Iman, Lucas Bingham and his technology team. They're very good at doing the behind-the-scenes work that it takes to pull off a board meeting. It's challenging at the central office. It's challenging to take the show on the road. Just want to thank all of them for doing outstanding work. In terms of kind of the idea behind hosting it here at Papillion La Vista South, we had the board approach us and say, you know, with all of these hundreds of millions of dollars worth of bond work, we need to find an excuse to get out into our buildings. One, to hopefully engage our community in ways that we haven't before, but also to showcase the outstanding board work and the bond work that's been done. So one of the things we decided to do is we'd start at the high school, and then unless we had reason to look otherwise, we would look at perhaps showcasing one of our middle schools with some recent bond work, as well as one of our elementary buildings. So our goal is certainly not to make it more difficult to access our board meetings, quite the opposite. Our goal was to get out more into the community and show our buildings off, because we are so blessed to have outstanding facilities thanks to the generous support of our taxpayers. So stay tuned for future announcements, but our next board meeting, our very first board meeting of 2024, which is in January, we will be back at our central office. Stick around tonight if you like. By the way, there is a vocal music concert, 7:30 in the gymnasium. So if you're wanting to soak up some kids tonight, you will get an opportunity after the board meeting. Also wanted to highlight for the board and community our voluntary separation program. Dr. Settles gave me the data this morning. Every single year, the board approves up to 15 staff members who've given good years of service to this district. For this voluntary separation package, we had 64 eligible, 9 took it out of 15 possible. Our board policy says we can approve up to 15. This is the 4th consecutive year we haven't filled up. I believe the previous 3 years we had 8 applicants. This year we had 9. So I'm certainly not trying to downplay some of the challenges this school district and school districts across the country have in retention efforts of staff. But this is one piece of data that we take a pretty close look at, and when we aren't filling up the slots that we have, that sends a really good signal that we have outstanding people who are eligible to leave this district and retire, move on to other things, but for whatever reason they choose to stay. So Dr. Settles, thanks for the good work on that. Appreciate you keeping the board updated. Also wanted to thank the Student Services team, Dr. Myers, Dr. Steele, Andrew Bell, among others, that led our latest community closet drive at La Vista Middle School on December 2nd. Most of you are aware of the community closet. It is an initiative between the school district and Cavalry Shadow Lake Church to provide basic hygiene, toiletry, and clothing items for some of our more vulnerable families. It was absolutely inspiring to walk into La Vista Middle School last Saturday morning. I wasn't able to stay for the entire event. There were people almost coming out the door. I think by our count we had 120 families we served. 6,200 items, mainly winter items, jackets, coats, mittens, hats, scarves, things of that nature. Even in a community of abundance like Papillion, La Vista, Bellevue, the municipalities we serve, there's so many people that are hurting right now. And we have an opportunity to be part of the solution, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that our people are doing there. Also want to give you an update on our Director of Communications. Ms. Iman will be leaving the district sometime in 2024. We'll have opportunities to say goodbye to her later and celebrate all that she's done for this community and the school district. But we previously shared with the board that we completed the interview process, made an offer. There was a little bit of a delay in sharing the name since that individual was still under contract. Well, we're pleased as of, I believe, about 4:30 this afternoon, Dr. Settles let me know that Dr. Christopher Villarreal has accepted the position. Dr. Christopher is an Omaha guy. He has his master's degree and his undergraduate from the University of Nebraska at Omaha. He did his doctoral work at University of Kansas, taught 8 years at Millard South, drama, English language arts, speech. He has family back in the metro. The candidate pool to be Ms. Iman's replacement was incredibly deep. I think I told the board previously we had 35 applicants. We interviewed 4. We could have interviewed 8 very easily. But Dr. Christopher is incredibly excited to join the team. In fact, he's already talking about transitioning back and meeting with cabinet over Christmas, over the winter break. And we plan on starting the transition time between Christopher and Ms. Iman shortly after the new year. Also wanted to share with the board, busy time of year as we draw the first semester to a close. Lots of DARE graduations, lots of liaison lunches. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. I think we have some board members that have attended both of those events, so I'll let them speak to that. And finally, just wanted to remind our community and staff, winter break is fast approaching. Our students mentioned it. It is that very much look forward to part of the year for our staff, for our families, for our kids with the holidays, getting about a 2-week break, recharging the batteries, taking a step back, and reflecting on the many blessings all of us have, not the least of which is living in this great community and this great country of ours. As a reminder, all students return on January 4th, and that will be here before we know it. And with that, Mr. Bailey, members of the board, I'd conclude my superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate everything. Yeah, very, very busy time of year. All right, next up, board reports.
I would like to report that I attended the La Vista Band concert on the 7th. It was wonderful. That was a grandma thing, but it was also really good to see. This was that band teacher's first time, and she did a fantastic job. And I would also like to thank Principal Spilker and the NRTC for doing the flag presentation for us tonight. It was very uplifting to see them come in and do their thing. Thank you.
I attended the parent engagement event last Thursday at Papillion La Vista High School. Karen Haase was featured. She shared information regarding social media and the impact on students. Her 3 main areas that she shared talked about apps that maybe parents weren't aware of. She talked about some research that's been released from the Surgeon General, and then finally some legal situations that are occurring in the state and nationally. I think Ms. Iman and her team have put all this information on Facebook, so it's available. I think there's some really good links on there that parents might want to look at. But well done. Karen's always very engaging.
All right, I had a handful these last couple weeks. You reminded me of the band concert. I did have the Terra Heights 4th grade concert. Just that was a dad thing and an uncle thing. I got a niece and a nephew also in 4th grade there. Great turnout. Appreciate the staff putting that together. And there was a busy night. I think they also had then 5th and 6th grade after the 4th grade. So it was a busy night at Terra. I also had the liaison lunch at Anderson Grove with some folks on Miss Moorhead's team, Dr. Rickley and Kathy there as well a week or so ago. We talked through a handful of things that they're doing at the school that they wanted to highlight that might be good to look at for the other elementary schools. One of them was a new program they started this year, which was the Unified PE. And this was started by Mr. McMahon, who was recently recognized, just I think within the last couple months, as the PE Teacher of the Year in the state. And then we also talked through a program that they've had a few years now. It's called the Go Get One program, where it assigns staff to just have quick 1 or 2 minute conversations with students that are not in their classroom, just to build relationships with more of the students, and for the students to have just more people in the building that they feel like they can go talk to outside of their teacher. And it's just the conversations are just typically around just how things are going and general interest, just 1 or 2 questions, and they thought it was going really well with getting to know the students more. We also talked through some areas where maybe they thought what could use addressing or have additional conversations. One of them that we talked through were having paras come in during plan days with teachers. Typically they do not, and they said this could help give them time to collaborate that they usually don't have with the teachers, since they're not there on plan days. And then the other one that we talked through, which again thought was a great conversation and worth taking back to maybe the curriculum committee, was just suggestions on rethinking the 10-day rotation with the specials. I think that's been in place for a while with how many specials are in that 10-day elementary program, and just, rethinking, is it the right number for each special for those 10 days. So just good open conversations with the staff there at Anderson Grove. They seem to have cohesion with the team, seemed great, and I appreciate them taking the time out of their busy day, highlighting some areas, and then also coming with some things that they just want to chat through more. And then lastly, sorry, this one's long. Lastly, back in August at the school's foundation gala, I bid on the opportunity for the boys to sit with the Monarch basketball team and the Titans, Jeff. So I did Titans as well. I have both of them. So I won both of them, and on Friday the boys got to sit with the Monarch boys basketball team during their game against Elkhorn South. So I just want to thank Mr. Govier, Mr. Curry, Coach Pope, Coach Innig on just making them feel like part of the team. They got to sit on the bench during the game at the end, and they got to go into the locker room at halftime, and they really enjoyed it. So just want to thank the team over there of just making them feel as part of the team, and I'm sure a memory they won't forget anytime soon. So thank you for that. That's it.
All right. I don't have as many things on my list, so we'll try to make it short. I attended the Liberty Band concert a couple of weeks ago. What was special about this concert was, unbeknownst to all of the parents, a student, a junior here at Papillion South, obviously a graduate of the band program at Liberty, approached the band teacher late last year and said, "Hey, if I composed a piece, would you let my sister's band play it?" So over the last 8 to 9 months, this junior, Matthew Valenta, in working with all of the band leaders in the district, went back and forth with his original things and composed an amazing piece. They haven't posted it yet. They're working to submit pieces from that concert for further consideration to be able to travel to an event. So it's not quite out there yet. We have parent links, but to have a junior in this district decide that he wanted to become a composer and submitted this, it was mind-blowing. It was just amazing. So once that is able to get shared, I'll pass that along to the board. But it was a pretty special night. The band sounded phenomenal. They do a great job at Liberty. That band does not sound like 8th graders, I can tell you that. So pretty phenomenal. Lastly, I had a liaison lunch here at Papillion South last Friday. We had a great venue, thanks to Mr. Spilker. Had a great space to sit and collaborate. We spent pretty much the entire time talking about their MTSS, which is what they've put in place to kind of meet the goals that they want to meet during the year, really pushing, from COVID, how we want to remediate, how they want to get, attendance numbers, the number of percentage of attendance every day up, number of classes that have been failed, reduce that number. And then really the third is, they're kind of all aligned with even our board strategic goals, but a big focus on mental health. So they have they're using data to really try to get ahead and get ahead of some of these situations where then for a student it can just snowball in terms of, missing too many classes, then falling behind, then now failing, and that, and on and on and on. So it was a great presentation, great discussion on how Mr. Spilker and the administrative team here are then really working with the individual teachers and trying to make sure that they are all communicating. So as they see something coming up, can we come up with a plan and execute? One of the bigger things related to mental health was that they have 3 additional counselors that come in from the outside to make time available for students that need, that assistance. They're working to get a 4th, which is phenomenal, and they're also unrelated to Papillion South, but the district is working at trying to provide some of that outside additional counseling services, even down into the middle schools and the elementary schools, because as parents that may be dealing with situations like that, it's really hard to get in anywhere. It can be months to get, your child seen by someone. So I think that's a great resource that the district is providing. We know it's a challenge right now, so big thanks to the administrative team here and at each school's working to bring those additional resources in, because as we know, they're really needed. So lots of good effort. As the accountant in me was really thankful that they are trying to use as much data as possible to drive their decisions, and they're making a great process. We also talked a little bit about just the transition from 8th grade into the building and how they work with the middle school principals, again, to try, if they're aware of a student that may be struggling or having, issues in the middle school, that they are addressing them as they transition into the high school, and then from freshman teams on to the rest of their careers here at Papillion South. So really, really thoughtful discussion, and as a parent that's going to have a freshman here next year, it was good to see some of the work and how they really do want to make that transition as smooth as possible, because it's a big jump from middle school to the big high school. So again, thanks Mr. Spilker and his team for allowing me to spend the lunch hour with them, and kudos on the Chipotle.
It was really meant for Mr. Madler, because we all know that is Mr. Madler's go-to lunch spot is Chipotle. So we did raise our glass in your honor, Mr. Madler. So.
All right, anyone else? I do have to say one thing. It kind of relates. So my wife and I work, if anybody's heard of the Neighborhood, the food pantry, the local food pantry just to the north of the police station here in Papillion. And so we volunteer once a month out there. And I was out there last Thursday working, and I noticed this thank you card. So I kind of picked it up and was looking at it, and it caught me, and it made me feel great. Neighborhood Food Pantry staff and volunteers, thank you so much for all you do for our community. We are so grateful. Our student council selected the community food pantry because of the many ways you seek to meet the needs of Sarpy County. Thank you and happy holidays, Hickory Hill Pack Club. So I was real excited. So they donated, and there's a lot of donations obviously that come from the local community, but just to see that thank you card, and I just thought that was really neat coming from Hickory Hill. So I just had to bring that up, take a little picture of that, and let you guys know all the good things that all these schools out here are doing. So it sounds fantastic. All right, anyone else? Lots of good stuff. All right, then we'll move to item F, committee reports, buildings, grounds, and finance.
We had a meeting scheduled for last Friday. Due to some conflicts, we are rescheduling that for after the first of the year.
Thank you. Human Resources and Student Services.
We met on Monday. Dr. Rickley already mentioned the retirees, so we discussed those. We discussed the superintendent's contract, which is on the agenda tonight, and we are beginning to look at staffing for the next school year.
All right, thank you. And lastly, curriculum and Americanism.
We did meet since the last board meeting. We really had 3 topics on our agenda. One was a lot of discussion around ACT, our scores, some philosophy behind the ACT, and those kinds of things. So more to come in the future on that. We talked about the AQuest student achievement data. So as that data is all released and we're ready to have those conversations, you'll see that on here for discussion on our agenda. And then we also had some discussion around the graduation credit and what's that going to look like as the legislature is demanding that we include certain courses, and what does that do to our high school students who now have to take additional things that have to be handled maybe on their own and not as an inclusion to another class, and what is that going to look like for our overall graduation credits in the future. So those were our 3 main topics: the ACT, the AQuest, and graduate credit.
Fantastic, thank you very much. All right, we will move on to section 3, action items. Item A, action by consent.
I'll make a motion that we approve the action by consent agenda as presented.
All right, a motion by Ms. Fisher and a second by Mr. Madler. Any comments or discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. All right, the second item is the superintendent evaluation and contract extension. Dr. Settles?
Yep, thank you. Good evening, Board of Education. As you are aware, you do annually do a performance evaluation of Dr. Rickley, and that was discussed last time by Mr. Bailey. So the HR subcommittee did determine to follow up to that recommendation from the online survey evaluation and follow-up conversation that was had. And based on that evaluation, the recommendation of the board is to extend the 3-year contract an additional year, which would add on July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027. At this time, all other provisions of the contract would remain the same, so there are no additional changes other than that date. We do keep a copy of the superintendent's 3-year contract for patron review on the district website, so that's able to be seen at any time in accordance with the Nebraska Superintendent Contract Transparency Act. It is customary to have this sort of recommendation come mid-year for planning purposes, really, for a district as well as the superintendent. In the event that the board, for instance, would be parting ways with a superintendent, it is nice to have this looked at annually at this time of the year so that the district would not be in a situation where we were late to the game of searching for a new leader. Any other questions for that, for myself or for any members of that committee? Thank you.
I'll make the motion to acknowledge completion of the superintendent's performance evaluation and to approve the 3-year superintendent's contract for Dr. Andrew Rickley.
Second.
All right, thank you. Motion made by Mr. Madler and a second by Mr. Lotus. Any other comments? Questions?
No, sorry, I don't know if it's picking me up. I will vote yes on this. I think we're very fortunate to have Dr. Rickley as our this district's superintendent, and continuing that on will just be I think continue to put this district in a great spot. Every time you go to any of these, we just had the state school board meeting last month, or you go meet with other school board members and other superintendents throughout the state, you constantly hear of their interactions with Dr. Rickley and all the positive things they have to say about him. So I think we're very fortunate to have you at this district, have you as our superintendent, and I'll be yes on this.
I echo Mr. Madler's response that he just gave, but I would also say that I've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Rickley since the day he was hired. And what I love about him is the fact that he's very engaged with our community, he's really engaged with our parents, with our staff, and he takes to heart how this district is doing, anything that comes up that needs addressed. And he's always been one that's been very humble, and when something hasn't maybe gone quite right, he's willing to take that on as his responsibility, even sometimes when it's not. So I can't say enough about the job that I think that you do every day, and that I believe that the award you received this year, as we did speak to people at the conference and at other events, never hear a disparaging word, only hear you highly spoken of. So I support this 100%.
I mean, I'll echo those comments. My comments are more directed onto, again, thanks to the HR subcommittee, having been on that in the past. I know the work that you guys go through evaluating the contracts, all the different provisions within those contracts, because regardless of who's in that seat as our district leader, we've got to always be evaluating that to make sure that our contract for the superintendent is competitive with all the other districts here locally and regionally, to make sure that in the event someday that Dr. Rickley decides to want to retire or have a change of pace, that we can recruit and retain the best and the brightest for that chair. So again, I know how much work you guys go through evaluating, comparing with other contracts around, and so I'm happy to see that we still have a very competitive contract and we kept the provisions the same. So thank you for all your work and all you do. I sit on a couple other boards with you, so I know how much additional time you spend outside of your day job. So always appreciate seeing you out in the community.
All right, well, I know how much he enjoys having us say those sorts of things, so I'll just say that I could as well. I just want to also thank you all, the subcommittee and Dr. Settles and everybody for all your work. You kind of stole what I was going to say as well, because it's you all are doing a great job keeping that contract very competitive so that we can keep Dr. Rickley here in Papillion. So unless there's any further comments, we'll go ahead and get a roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to Section 4, discussion and information items, State of the Schools report. Ms. Siri.
All right, good evening. I had to change spots here so that way Angie can kick me. This is Angie Wright. She is our Director of Assessment, and I am very pleased that she's joining me at the table tonight. We are here to present to you our information for the State of the Schools. This is an annual presentation that we do every year. And before we start, I think it's good to clarify that the delivery of this information is really determined by the Nebraska Department of Education. And they release the information, and when it goes public, then obviously we're allowed to do our public presentation of our student achievement, demographic, and some additional information. I also think it's really important, and I cannot stress enough, that we are actually talking about the 2022-2023 school year. So not our current school year, that will be presented next year at this time. The reason that it is delayed is because we do complete all of those state assessments in the spring, and then there is a lot of work on cleaning up the data, making sure it's correct, as well as the AQuest classification, which is the ranking that our district receives from NDE based on some criteria that we're also going to talk about. And that typically rolls out to us at the end of November for us to review and make sure that we don't find errors in the data, and then it's made public. And you may have saw the article in the Omaha World Herald that talked about the district. The other piece that I think is important to communicate is anyone is welcome to look at this. This information is public. It's found on NDE's webpage under, it's called the NEP site. But you can look up any district there and look at their student information from the previous school year. So with that being said, we're going to dive in. We're going to kind of tag team this. But here is the listed information that we're going to share with you tonight. You can see that part of it has to do with our state test assessment information, as well as demographics and some of the other indicators of student achievement that we collect through the year. So before we start, we're going to talk about the key takeaways. I think there are a few highlights here that I would like to point out. Overall, we do continue to perform above the state and national averages. Our graduation rate remains strong, which is something that we continue to be proud of, and I'd like to recognize the two administrative teams and teachers at the two high schools. Every educator in our district works for that end goal, and sometimes there are kids that need a lot of extra support and help at the end, and they are willing to do that to help them. It is a life-changing decision. We're also going to talk to you a little bit about the MAP assessment. That continues to give our teachers great information in a timely manner that allows them to make decisions for students in the classroom. And obviously, we want to continue to have high expectations. That ties back to our strategic plan, goal number 1, as we continue to work and focus on rigor in our district, and we always see an opportunity for improvement. And then the last one is that sense of urgency. You know, in education, it seems like we can never move fast enough, especially when you're working with kids, but it takes a long time sometimes to turn a cruise ship. And so we're constantly looking for ways that we can be better. And the information that we're going to share with you tonight is one indicator that we look at among lots of indicators. So we're going to start out with the demographic information. Just so that you are aware, this is information that is collected in October, by October 1st. So it's a little dipstick that NDE dips in and looks at our demographic data. So as of October 1st of 2022, this is what we looked like at that time. You can see that our student enrollment overall was 12,031 students. I think something to point out on this is we did see a slight uptick in special education. We have more students that are qualifying with the need for special services and special education. The year previous, it was at 15%. Our peers are at 17%, so you can see that we are still comparable, but it is a little bit of an uptick for us. Part of that, we do believe, is because of the mental health issues that we're seeing in students, and that is a criteria that is identified here. But also, we're watching it, trying to make sure that our processes are identifying the right students and making sure that our students get those needs met. Angie's going to talk to you a little bit about the state test. So Angie, I'll let you talk about English Language Arts.
This graph and the following two graphs look very similar. This is the English Language Arts graph. This is for our state test, NSCAS, and it includes students, all students in grades 3 through 8. And we assess, through this test, we assess progress towards proficiency on the state standards. The whole bar that you see for each of those represents 100% of the kids, The darker bar is representing the Papillion La Vista Community Schools students, and then the lighter bar next to it represents the same grade level, but as you're looking at the state scores. Each section of the bar represents what percent of the students in our school district or in the state of Nebraska who scored in each of the 3 performance categories. The blue one being advanced, so above state standard expectations. The green one being on track, so students who score in that proficiency level are on track according to the state standards. And then those students who scored in the yellow are developing, so they're still working towards the state standards. Just some things to point out here. You can see that all grade levels in Papillion La Vista Community Schools, all grade levels outperformed the same grade level in the state. So more of our students were proficient in ELA in our school district than throughout the state. So that is good news. The next graph, this is same graph. You're looking at the same thing except this is mathematics. You can see that the same is true here. That our students are continuing to outperform the students across the state of Nebraska. And I should also point out that for both ELA and math, this year cut scores were reset over the school year. And so these are reflective of those new cut scores that are more representative of the expectations of the standards and the expectations of the test. And finally, we have science. Science is assessed in 2 grade levels, 5th grade and 8th grade, which is why you see fewer bars there. Again, you can see that students in Papillion La Vista in the area of science are outperforming students in the state of Nebraska. So overall, we are pleased with how our students are performing. We're always looking for improvement and looking at our programs to see how we can better serve students and their learning, but are pleased with our progress thus far on the state test.
And these tests are taken in the spring, mainly in the month of April. Students take 1 test a day. So they take math, and they go another day and they take English language arts and so on.
This is representative of the junior ACT. So Nebraska state statute states that for our 11th graders, the 11th grade test must be a college entrance exam, and the state of Nebraska, we give the ACT to all of our juniors. Last year we had 971 juniors take the ACT on ACT day or within that window. This trend shows Papillion La Vista Community Schools in the yellow and the state of Nebraska in red. And you can see that over the years we have outperformed the state as far as the composite. This is the composite score, and then on the next graph you'll see the 3 metrics that the state of Nebraska looks at for AQuest, and that is ELA, which is a combination of the reading test and the writing test, math and science. The top percentages are representative of the percent of students who have met that on track or advanced qualification in ELA and math, and the top chart shows for Papillion La Vista, and the bottom chart is the state of Nebraska. So on the ACT, things are starting to level out after COVID, and we are continuing to see students in Papillion La Vista outperform those in the state of Nebraska, which again is what we would like to see. We continue to look for improvement and to think about how we can best prepare students for future.
Again, just to note, I know some of you have had graduates, but this assessment is 1 day in April and it is all juniors. Our students often participate in the ACT as a college entrance exam, which this is as well, but they may take it their senior year. That's a different report. The next one is our Access Your Future in Papillion La Vista. We also look at this as an indicator of student performance. These are our academies as well as our workplace learning and our industry-based certification. You can see there the number of students that participated in an academy is 789. We have 10 academies, as you know. Workplace learning, you can see the total number of hours there that students participated in. Again, this is last school year. The workplace learning includes being on the floor at the HSA or the Health Academy, our Education Academy kids and the time that they served in a classroom, our Athletic Trainer Academy in which the kids help obviously with athletic training, and then the last is the Zoo Academy in which they're out shadowing and in the zoo. Certification, industry-based certification, you can see the number of students there that earn certification. Obviously it's CPR, CNA, CMA, which is the distribution of medicine as part of the Health Academy, and then OSHA, you see there the total number. This includes obviously our graduation rates. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can see that last year we did have a larger graduating class slightly, not by much, but it was still a little bigger class. The graduation rate was 94.4 and we had 910 graduates total. Advanced placement is one of the research practices that also indicate post-secondary success at the college level. Students that participate in an advanced placement course and the test for that course often are more successful in college by earning at least a C or above in all their coursework. So this is last year's AP numbers for both high schools combined. So the first number is the total number of students that participated in one or more classes, and we do have students that obviously participate in multiple AP classes, but they're only counted in there once. The number that participated in a test, and then the total number of AP course enrollments. And so you can see there, because students do take multiple courses, that's both semesters added together. And then the last number is of the student population, what percent participated in AP coursework. Both high schools have been working on an advanced placement, increasing these numbers. South worked with the NIMSI program, and Monarch has been working on increasing their number of participants in the test as well as coursework. And we really appreciate that work because we really do think it's a great opportunity to have our students participate in rigorous coursework that's college level, while they still have the support of high school. It helps prepare them if they decide to go on to a post-secondary institution. On the left-hand side there, you can see all of the AP courses that are available to our students at both of our high schools at different times. The next is the MAP assessment. This is NWEA MAP, and it's the measurement of academic progress. This is an adaptive assessment that we began utilizing in our district in 2016. Again, the areas that are tested are reading and math. There is also a language usage test that buildings use, and sometimes they use it for specific students depending upon the information they're trying to collect. They take it, K3 takes it right away in the fall, winter, and spring is it's not optional for K3 because of the reading law, so it is not optional. The reading bill changed that a few years ago, so they participate in it 3 times a year for certain. But grades 4 through 9 test in the fall, winter, and spring is optional depending upon if the information is needed by the teacher, or some buildings do use it for other reasons, and so they do the entire grade. Again, the results you're going to see is fall of 2022 to fall of 2023. And Angie's going to talk you through that.
So the MAP test is a computer-based adaptive test, which means not all students get the same exact test. It adapts based on how students answer the questions. This test these results are similar as far as the stacked bar goes. It's a little bit different because there isn't a cut score where we're putting students into performance categories, but students are assigned a percentile based on the score that they earn. Much like when you took your children to the doctor and you were told if they were in the 80th percentile for height, it's the same percentile there. This is just based on an academic measure. On the very right-hand side, you can see the bar that says national trend. That is what the national sample looks like when you're setting percentiles. So there's 20% of students in that national sample in each of the quintiles. The other bars on the graph show kindergarten through 9th grade, and the percent of students in each of those quintiles in the fall of 2023. So we can see before we had a chance to do instruction in this grade level, but this fall, these are our most recent results and the percent of students that fell into each of those quintiles. Overall, the goal is you want lots of blue and green and yellow, and you want less orange and red. More cool colors, fewer warm colors on this graph. And that is what we're seeing overall. These are the results for the MAP reading test. And then on the next graph are the results for the MAP math test. Again, in the fall compared to that same national trend. We use this assessment data. Teachers use it individual student by individual student to help point them to where students are excelling, where they might need some additional support in the classroom, and then use additional formative assessments and information they gather from their classroom instruction to help make sure we're meeting the needs of each student. MAP data is different than NSCAS data because we get it immediately and we can take action on it right away, where NSCAS data is delayed. So it helps us to have both measures, because anytime you're looking at student achievement, you want to make sure that you're using multiple measures to make decisions. And this test helps give us immediate data, and then the NSCAS data helps give us that long-term data, and we can make sure that we're making smart choices for groups of students and for individual students. Absolutely.
So is it still set up so in kindergarten and first grade they listen to it, and then in second grade they begin to read independently, correct?
That is correct. The reading test is set up so that our kindergarten and first grade students, because they don't know how to read independently yet, they listen to the passages, and then the test switches over in second grade and students begin to independently read. That's why you might see that uptick of more students in the red and orange, because inherently the test got more difficult because students are doing more of it independently than they did in kindergarten and first grade based on their reading levels.
A very simplistic way to explain the difference between the MAP and the summative NSCAS or the ACT are both of those assessments, NSCAS and ACT, are measuring what a student should know based on standards that are identified. The MAP test is really telling you not necessarily what students should know, but what they know. So where they're at and what they don't know. So it is a different measurement that teachers find useful in a different way.
I have a question. I think if I heard you right, you said that not all students take the exact same MAP test. Who or what determines for each student which test they will receive?
That's a really good question. Students start the test, and they start at grade level, or if they've taken the test before, where the test indicated that their performance level was. And then from there, as students get items right, they get just a little bit harder item each time. If they get one wrong, it drops the level down a little bit. So they're looking for that just right place where students can perform. When you look at the percent correct on a test, when MAP performs optimally, students get about 50% of the questions right and 50% wrong. It means they found the sweet spot for that student. Does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that's also one of the reasons why it's very helpful to teachers, because it tells you students that struggle exactly where they are, and also students that maybe are on the high ability end where they are performing as well. Okay, the last piece then is AQuest. So this is Nebraska's classification formula that they use to designate levels of performance of districts. And so for the 22-23 school year, Papillion-La Vista Community Schools was designated as great. And the criteria that is used to determine that are these 4 indicators. So NSCAS, which is obviously the state test, that the information we just shared with you, is a large part of that, and that's the number of students that not only are proficient in each of those areas, but also the number that participated. Another area is transitions, so that whole graduation rate, as well as the extended graduation rate. So those students that continue your 5th year graduates clear up to age 21. As well as educational opportunities and access. That includes things like chronic absenteeism, the progress that our English language learner students make. All of those things are calculated in there, and then the bottom piece are student achievement and growth. So those are the 4 areas, and from that they derive that we are great. We were great last year as well. We will also get, each building will also get information. They will get a designation on how individual subgroups perform. For example, students that are in special education, students that maybe have economic status, which is free and reduced lunch, but that is not public yet, and we don't have that information to share with you tonight, but that is also part of the AQuest status that we get from NDE. The last part are the district goals for 2023-2024. So these are shared with our administrators at our May admin retreat. We do that so that buildings can plan over the summer as they're doing their continuous improvement process and make a determination if their building also has this area as indicated for growth. Basically, the first one really focuses on strategic plan. I know that's hard to read there. It's easier to read on the TV screen. But this is our focus to raise rigor and to increase student growth and achievement. And then a specific action step for 2023-2024 as we look at all of this was to continue to focus on reading, and in full transparency, part of that is also because this year English language arts is in the curriculum evaluation cycle, and we are in the process of updating that curriculum and resources for our teachers. So what can we expect moving forward? We will continue to use multiple data points to evaluate academic achievement. I just shared a few of them tonight with you. We have stability in the MAP assessment. We do take that assessment K-9, and then as needed in some additional areas if we have individual students that we're monitoring, as well as ACT. We'll continue to monitor the chronic absenteeism rate. You heard earlier tonight, Mr. Lotus even shared that our 2 high schools have been focusing on that. That's a dip that we've seen since COVID, and both buildings have seen improvement the last couple of years, but also in our elementaries and middle school as well. With the full implementation of the reading bill, we also added a fluency assessment this current year, so that will be another data point that we will have moving forward for our kiddos in the primary grades. And we recognize that there's fluctuation in the AQuest classifications. Part of that's that formula and the pieces that feed into that. And then we're really, as you know, as part of the ESSER's dollars, we did purchase Otis, which is a data warehouse, and our goal there is to make data more easily accessible to our classroom teachers, giving them kind of a one-stop shopping place for data. That's our hope. We recognize that SIMS will also continue to give them data as well as other pieces that they have, but really trying to get it more easily available so that they can look at a particular student and see exactly how that student's doing in multiple data points. And then the last part is, of course, we're continuing to focus on rigor with our strategic plan implementation across the board as we have high expectations for all kids. Angie, what did I forget?
Not a thing, boss.
Okay. Questions that you have for Angie? I'm just kidding.
I actually have two questions. Just to clarify, all juniors take the ACT no matter what their plans are moving forward. And we started that in what year?
15, I believe.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Okay.
2014 maybe, Val?
Yeah,
I have to get the
that
exact date
sort
and
of
send
sounds
it back
right.
to you.
Because I just
Oh,
think
16,
that
17. Ooh, I was off.
it feels like, before when you looked at the district ACT scores, they were definitely much higher. But then when every single junior had to take them, and we used that as part of our assessments, we did see some of that come down. I think it's important to note that. The other thing I had was just a question on, can you refresh memory on how graduation rates, percentage, is calculated in our district?
Yeah, so the information I shared with you tonight is the state, and it's just straight graduation. It's the number of students and the number of students that earn a diploma, which is different than the number of students that participate necessarily in the ceremony. Because you could have a student that chooses not to participate, or you could have a student that still is finishing credits, but gets them by the end of summer school of June of that year. That still counts as a graduate with that class.
That's what I wanted to clarify, because
Yeah.
it's our seniors, we're looking at our
Yes.
seniors, and whether they graduate on graduation day, or whether they earn whatever missing credits they might have had, and then they graduate or receive their diploma later, it's counting all of those in our graduation rate.
And you could also have students that graduate in their 5th year. Now they're
Yeah.
considered a 5th-year graduate, but they also count.
Count in that.
Yeah,
Okay.
as well as 6th, clear up to age 21, as we have students that, in special education, that
Correct.
participate clear up to the age of 21.
All right, thank you.
I think it's also important to note, I appreciated your question, Ms. Fisher, on ACT. Not every state in the union mandates ACT for all. The last time I saw, and Angie and Ms. Siri can correct me, I think approximately 17 states in the union administer ACT for all. The majority do not. Of those 17 states in the country that require ACT for all, Nebraska's always near the very top. So I think it's important for our community and our board to understand not only is Papillion-La Vista Community Schools outpacing the state, we as a state are outpacing the country by a pretty fair margin. There's room to grow, no question about it. We will do better, but our kids are doing pretty darn well, particularly on the ACT.
Yeah, and I really applaud our state for selecting the ACT, because we know that we need a measurement there across our state. And we understand that, but the fact that they selected an assessment that also benefits our students, it gives them an opportunity to take that at no cost to them, and they may utilize that score if they choose to when they are applying for college.
Can you talk through what services we have to help the students with the ACTs
Sure.
throughout the year?
Yeah, so we, in our district, we have a couple of things. Both of our high schools do things to prep our students for the college ACT. They review with our students. A lot of them, some of our teachers use it as bell ringers, so it's how they start the lesson. Like in math, they give them a problem and then they work through it. In their advisor or homeroom time, a lot of times I know South and Monarchs both have things built in where they're reviewing and practicing with the students. And also, we've in the past, sometimes the high schools have chosen, like the week before the ACT, going back, reviewing math, geometry with the kids as they prepare to take that assessment. So that's one thing. The second thing is, of course, when we bring in our curriculum for review and evaluation, we do align it to the ACT. So we look to identify to make sure that students have had the opportunity to learn the information before they are assessed on it. So that's a critical piece that we do. And then the last part is our district does have its own ACT prep opportunity for students. We offer it on the weekend. It's taught by our teachers, and I call it the buffet of ACT. It's offered at both high schools, and we alternate what courses are offered, but students can choose. So I can just go for math prep and review, and the way that it's built, it's in 3 chunks. The first chunk is review of instruction. So the teachers go back. You know, for some students, it's been a while since they took geometry or they've had algebra 2. So it's done with instruction. The second thing is our students are given a practice test so that they can practice and get the feeling of what it feels like to have timed, because the ACT is timed. And then the third is they do give them test-taking strategies. But students can choose to pick what they want to, and that's $15 for a student, and they can do it as often, as many times as they would like.
Yeah, I think that's a great service that we're able to offer to the students, especially those that are looking forward to taking the test and using it for that college application to help them score as best they can, because we also know that scholarship dollars and getting into those the places that they want to get into at times can rely on those scores. So if the district can help those students do better, and those students do better, then and it just helps the families out in the communities. And then just want to thank you for all the data tonight. You know, I love it. I appreciate all the different metrics, but I just also want to remind people that looking at the high-level data, while can be useful, is just you also don't want to make too quick of decisions and too quick of a reaction to those numbers, especially in comparisons to other districts or even year over year, because demographics change. And I think that's where the subgroup information that they'll be releasing shortly is even more powerful to drill down and get a better understanding at those smaller group levels, maybe where the best opportunities are for this district to try to improve, instead of looking at the high level. It just makes it so difficult, especially when you got 12,000 students in a district, and every district has different demographics and a different community. So getting down to the subgroup and then comparing those subgroups should be much more powerful. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Marcus. And I it is a sense of pride for our teachers. They work really hard. Sometimes it's not reflective in that number. There's more to that story. And so that's why it's so important we use multiple data points and the local assessments, and also the teacher's perspective. They're moving those kids forward. They know what they need, and so it's a much more detailed painting than what we saw tonight. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate all that information. Yes.
Well done.
All right, next up is the elementary staff computer replacement. Looks like we're going to get Lucas. All right.
Welcome, Lucas.
Good evening. In front of you, as a discussion item this evening, is our year 3 out of 4 in our cycle to replace our elementary staff member machines. There's approximately a little over 550 that we would be purchasing. The intent would be to come back to the board at the January 8th meeting. I believe that's our first meeting in January, to seek approval for that purchase. We generally come a little later between winter and spring, but with the elementary being our biggest population of teachers to deploy to, we want as much time as possible to make sure we land those in their hands before they leave for the summer. And so that will give us enough time to do so. The last time we replaced their machines was 2020, and they're on a 4-year cycle, so it hit that mark here this winter and spring. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
And Lucas, I assume the staff currently has Apple computers?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
and it's the students that we have the Chromebooks for, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay,
And elementary students also have access to iPads as well.
gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Lucas, particularly during the pandemic, we knew there were many issues with supply chain, with chip shortages, things of that nature. If the board moves forward at a future meeting to approve this purchase, do you anticipate any issues getting the machines?
I don't. I don't anticipate any issues at the current time. I don't think a few weeks is going to make a difference in that. They're telling us they're available. They kind of forecast out a little bit, so we've had some conversations about what we'd be looking at, and they kind of pencil that in for us, so to speak. It's never guaranteed, obviously, but from a shipping and logistics standpoint, they do a decent job of making sure we can get what we need. And that's particularly, I will say that Apple does a very good job of that. Certainly other manufacturers try as well. We didn't see that at some points during the pandemic, but I think we're past those days, hopefully at least for this purchase. All right. Thank you much.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Lucas. All right, we'll move on to Section 5, our future board calendar. December 15th, Ms. Witt has liaison lunch, PLECC at 11:10. Winter break, I know, is a big one for, does say no school for teacher or for students. I'm sure, teachers would like to be included in that as well. Yeah, we'll let the teachers and staff off as well for a little bit. Staff Development Day on January 3rd. And then our next Board of Education meeting on January 8th, back at Central Office, still at 6 p.m. So we'll start the new year there for our future board calendar. Before I adjourn, I think Jeff has left, but I do want to say thank you so much to everyone here at South for hosting us. That was fantastic. It was great to see this beautiful area, and we do appreciate that. And one last thing, happy holidays, everyone. I hope everyone has a great Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, anything else that I'm sure I missed, Kwanzaa, everything else I missed. But everybody have a good holiday season. And unless there's any further business, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:26 p.m.